Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com.
In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 2 of Freedom Fools. Thank you, Wendy Morrell, for hanging around and finishing up. And I know there are a couple of people that were trying to get in before the news. Now it's your chance. Final segment with Wendy on Freedom Fools on WBSM. The Brian's Beat quote of the day: amateurs practice until they get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong. That is a quote from Nike. Wendy's getting ready to write it down or type it right into her phone. You like that, huh? I do. Well, let me turn your mic on so it sounds better. All right.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. It's amazing.
Although there's a lot of people who would like to keep my mic off.
Well, I'm wondering if that's what they're going to say come Tuesday,
they've been
Wednesday,
trying.
And Thursday. Well,
They've
look,
been
if
trying.
they were really trying, they would put shackles around your ankles so you couldn't go anywhere.
They're trying.
They'll be meeting you at work on Tuesday to make sure that you can't get over to the Pulaski School.
I'm going to have to park in a stealth-like location.
So the first part that I want to get to that you brought up, you talked about when you had your people over at the feast.
Yep.
A lot of folks were in from out of town, and then I brought up the fact that this does affect Dartmouth and Acushnet and Fairhaven, but I'm wondering how you've really reached out to bring those folks in, because sometimes you can't just hope that New Bedford people are going to show up for something like this.
Agreed. We've been trying for years. We've reached out to the different select boards, the conservation commissions, the health departments of all those different towns in the surrounding areas. And
Freetown, I should have brought that one up too. Yeah,
we have. And everybody's so siloed.
What does that mean?
It means everybody is living in their own little bubble and focused on what's the higher priorities within their immediate community. And I don't blame them. I'm not holding that against anybody. But they're not paying attention to the things that are happening nearby that could have a ripple effect. And I see it a lot in doing this kind of advocacy. It's very disheartening to me. I'm of the mindset that it doesn't have to happen to me for me to care, but I don't encounter that most often with other people. And it's frustrating because I feel like there's a lack of humanity. Is
that a New Bedford thing, or do you notice that in other communities?
It's everywhere, but the most disheartening part is when I see it in New Bedford. The wards are definitely siloing people, keeping them isolated from other areas of the city, so that you live in the same city and yet you don't know what's going on in a different area in the same city, nor do you care when you find out. I can't wrap my head around that. But I think it's designed that way. I think it's designed that way.
Well, the facility certainly is in a particular location. And I was going to bring up the nip bottle ban when there was discussion about that. People came in droves. Obviously that does affect the entire city of New Bedford. But it does show that people will come out if there's an issue that really
Affects them
bugs
directly, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but
So that's
I
why
don't know how many folks go out and buy a nip bottle, but I think, maybe you do buy them. Maybe you do see them littered on the ground. There's an effect for an entire community, just as Parallel Products or South Coast Renewables. Isn't it nice how they changed the name?
Yeah, isn't it convenient?
Yeah.
So, and my group is South Coast Neighbors United. Did you ever notice that?
As opposed to what? Yeah, I noticed the name.
Our name is South Coast Neighbors United. 2 words, South Coast.
Yeah.
Not the combined South Coast like you see across, the area. And their South Coast Renewables, also 2 words, not the combined South Coast that you see.
Who was first?
We were.
Well.
By many years.
Oh, well, there you go.
I just think that we're dealing with people who try to be nefarious in the way that they do things.
You know what? Seriously, here's what I think and what I've seen over the years, and then I'm going to get to that phone call. I think you're dealing with professionals. Okay, but not that the quote was actually planned for this, but you're dealing with people that are getting paid. I don't know if you're getting paid any money or anybody in your group is getting paid any money.
Volunteer.
And so you've got your job to do. Other people have their job to do. If they can make a particular meeting or if they can go to a particular event, I can go to the feast tonight. That's fine. These other folks are getting paid to be there to write up and do what they do.
Right.
Agreed. That is a huge difference.
Agreed.
508-996-0500. Hello.
Hi, Brian.
Hi. How you feeling?
I'm still sick. I won't make it to those meetings. I just actually went and picked up food from Shaw's. I pulled off this side of the road. I'm pulling off again. I'd like to know, since I can't make those 2 meetings, I know she said there's a meeting at the end of the month, but I wish I could be there at the first 2 meetings. Is it going to be televised for us? Do you know?
I believe that Ward 1 City Councilor Leo Choquette has made arrangements for the cable access in New Bedford to record the first 2. I don't know if it'll be televised live, but they will be recorded. But keep in mind that if you're not able to make it, which I completely understand, if you have concerns about this, you can reach out to us. We're happy to share information with you, and you can submit written comments up until the last day of the hearing.
Well, I brought this up about 2 years ago. I got a flyer in the mail. It looked like something from a pizza restaurant, a new menu type of thing. Nobody was paying attention, reading them. And I called Chris McCarthy. Marcus at the time was on the show with them, and I brought it up. The Parallel Project, they had no idea what I was talking about, and I let them know. And yes, they changed their name last year, South Coast Parallel Project, but they changed it with the wind turbines that came in. That also is South Coast Wind. So the mayor has all of that under one barrel, I think, basically. And I appreciate you being on the show because this really has been near and dear to me.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
So she should, if she wants to write a letter, she should send it where?
You could send an email to us, and we'll be happy to help you with that if you need help with that.
Okay.
Do you know their email?
No. Could you say it again?
Info, INFO, at scnu.us.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, feel better. Thanks for the call. And I believe she would be there. She is, it's been a bad couple of weeks for her. So
sorry to hear that.
But she's not far from where the Harvey fire was.
So the fire that happened in May.
Yeah.
And she's sick now and has been for a few weeks.
Yeah, I don't know that one has anything to do. I don't know.
I'm not saying it does, but just remember what we were talking about earlier about what is in the fumes from those fires that burn for hours at waste facilities.
Weeks later, you think? I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, if she was in her house and it was coming in.
So, the Board of Health. Are they doctors on the Board of Health?
They're all in the medical field. Yes. Not
so
doctors, but in the medical field.
Maybe that kind of research needs to be there. I'm curious if anything left over from the Harvey fire, any kind of literature that says, wow, this is what's happening, or this could be lingering for a month or something along those lines.
They've been provided with evidence that I referenced earlier of cases in other places where the quality of air has been monitored and it's been shown to be poor around waste handling facilities.
So I look at the information that you've presented. I understand the Department of DEP, Mass DEP, they are a state agency, but it makes me wonder, how did it even get by them?
Because they rubber stamp everything. They've only ever denied 2. Ever.
And how many denials have come out of the New Bedford Department of Public Health?
You mean Board of Health? I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know the history of that, and I don't know that we could compare those as apples and oranges because it's a different body every time, and they're in the mayor's office, being the appointee is also maybe different. So, and I don't know when the last ones were. I mean, obviously E.L. Harvey at some point was approved. They had to have gone through the same process. The regulations and the process have not changed for a long time, and that's another part of the problem. The regulations have not been updated with all the information we know about PFAS and the impact on public health of facilities like this. They're all outdated regulations. The requirements regarding soil testing and air testing and water testing have not been updated. So we're dealing with something that is being pushed through and approved on antiquated regulations, which is even more scary.
Being pushed through on a city like New Bedford?
That's no mistake.
I mean, it could have been Fall River, I guess.
Could have been Fall River.
Could have been Lowell.
Yes. But it would never be, I don't know, Newton or,
right.
You know what I mean?
Quincy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the reality of this. That's what frustrates me to no end, is that they know exactly what they're doing. They target specific communities knowing that the people there are strapped with time, strapped with resources, strapped with just trying to get through life and survive. They're not going to have the ability to fight back. You think if this was proposed for a community that was more affluent, that had those resources, that it would happen? It wouldn't be approved. It would never go through. They know it.
You go back to your apples and oranges. I don't think that the folks that are pulling this off would even try to do it in a community like that.
You just answered the whole question right there, because they know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why bother?
That's what environmental
justice. The people that employ them live in those communities.
And that's what environmental justice is. Environmental justice, and a big portion of New Bedford is deemed environmental justice, which means they've met all sorts of benchmarks to be designated as such, which usually comes hand in hand with a history of pollution, contamination, marginalization, oppression, exploitation, all of those. And we've recently had environmental justice regulations added into the law, but all it's done is say, in layman's terms, it means that if a project comes to your community that's environmental justice community, you get more involvement in the participation in the public, which means we get to come to the table and beg you not to put it here. But you're still going to put it here.
So in other words, you get to have these community meetings, and then you get to speak the last day of the community meeting.
Right, and then it still goes through anyway. So it's all performative. It's not meaningful regulation. It's not meaningful law. What would be meaningful?
Wendy,
what would
pardon me for being Debbie Downer here, or Dawn Downer. But it sounds, if I'm listening to what we're saying right here, I'm thinking, why do I want to go to this meeting? Because it sounds like it's a losing proposition.
Because there's power in people. They're literally banking on people not showing up. They're banking on people not getting involved, not participating, not speaking out. That's the history here. That's how things get squeaked by. That's how things get snuck in. We've done our best to try to educate this community and make them aware of what's going on and engage them in the process and let them know you have a right and you have a voice and it needs to be heard. If you have concerns, we're happy to help facilitate that and make sure that they're listening to you. we've had people from the very start go, this is a losing battle. We don't know why you're even bothering. It's a done deal. Well, you know what? The biosolids was a done deal. Didn't happen. This was supposed to be up and running at the end of 2020. It's 2025. If it weren't for all of the work that we've done over the last 6 years, this would already be up and running and we'd all be breathing in fried sewage sludge. That's not happening. So there have been small wins along the way. The only guaranteed loss is the fight you don't undertake.
I got you, and I totally agree. That's what freedom is not free. You gotta fight for it. Last few moments here, and the meeting starts at 6:30. What you want people to wear? White. What's the significance of the white?
Pulaski, when they turn off the lights in the audience, you can't really see people very well. And
why are they turning off the lights?
That's what they always do, so you can see the important people up on the stage. But I mean, we've had so many events there. We've been to so many events there. We know what it looks like there, and it's very dim lighting. So we suggest that everybody wears white to show community solidarity, because we don't know how many people are going to be in the audience that are in favor of this or a part of the project proponents' entourage. We need to stand out, and any other color might not be as noticeable, and you might get different shades of green or blue. Like if we were to say wear black, well, nobody's going to see us. All right, so then wear green to signify our commitment to the planet, or whatever you want to. But you could have teal green and light green, and so then it's kind of lost in the message. The white will show a sea of white in the darkness of the auditorium.
Got you. Final question. A series of questions. How many New Bedford City councilors are backing what you guys are doing, or trying to stop South Coast Renewables from ever getting off the ground?
They've all been on our corner from the beginning, pretty much all of them. There isn't one that said, no, I think this is a good idea. Not one. I mean, we'll not talk about the TIF. We won't go back in time. You can't go back and undo what's been done. What we can do is fix it going forward. And they've all come and stepped up and said, they've signed on to the letters that we've submitted to the Mass DEP, to the legislators, all of those. They've signed on to those. They've supported us in all those aspects. What I am disappointed in is that the city council automatically, inherently has standing in this process, but they need their own attorney, and their attorney should have filed for them to be recognized as a body of interveners in the process. And that didn't happen, and I don't know who to point at for that.
Are you expecting any of them to want to speak
I think they'll be there
at these meetings coming up?
I think they'll be there, but I don't know in what capacity they'll be able to interact in the process because of that lack of registration. There's very it's informal, but there's a very formal process by which you have to do these things.
Nothing like an informal, formal process.
Right, and so they've missed the deadline, and the hearing officer, it's up to the hearing officer whether or not he allows who to speak.
Even elected officials.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, because
Linda Morad, I mean, this is in her backyard.
Yes. I do know that she attempted to register as an intervener. I don't know if she was successful or not. I know that of 3. There could be more that attempted, and I don't know for sure, but I know that Linda Morad did, Brian Gomes did, and Leo Choquette did. They attempted to register. I don't know if it was approved or not, and for what reason it might not have been. I don't know.
And once again, who is the approver?
It's the hearing officer. His name is Art Krieger. He's hired, I believe, by the town or the city to be the hearing officer. This is something that he's done many times. So, but I venture to guess that he hasn't seen as much involvement from the community in previous hearings, it seems like. He seems to be a fair and rational person. So, and I'm hoping that mixed with his past experience, he will defer to fairness and equity in the process.
Did he set the rules?
He sets the rules, but he has to follow the law, but the gray area is the interpretation of the law. There's literally been emails going back and forth with different interpretations of the exact same thing between all of the attorneys and the hearing officer. And so that's what makes me think, it's not to say they don't know what they're doing. It's to say that they haven't done it to this degree before, which makes me believe that they haven't They haven't come across a community like this before. So people need to show up and show them what this community is really made of and keep it going.
Well, here's what I'd like you to do. I know Monday is going to be a tough night, but sometime around 6:45, pick up the phone, give us a call, let us know what's going on over there, because I'm very curious. And again, like I said, I'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Right.
So I can't physically get down there, but I would like to have some eyes and ears.
Hopefully somebody from the station will be down there covering some stuff. I would think.
Well,
it's newsworthy for sure.
It is. I hope so. I don't know.
I certainly hope the local media shows up.
I don't see people. Well, I'm sure they will. I just don't see those kind of people around here on a regular basis, because most of the time I'm in here during the evening now. Wendy, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Wish
for having
you the best.
me again,
Look forward to talking to you in the coming days. And we're keeping our eyes open on this. So
we appreciate
the best
that.
to you. No problem.
And the residents in that area really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. All right, 508-996-0500. More to come.
Give me liberty or give me death.
I just think we need to kill them, every one of them, and that's it. And if not that, because the country will not let that happen, the government. Just the least we can do is just kick them out of our land, because this is our home, this is our land, and we deserve it.
Welcome back. Thank you, Wendy Morell, for coming in studio today. She is the founder of South Coast Neighbors United and Citizens Against Parallel Products. I do believe it's a battle worth fighting. I think it is going to be an uphill battle. I know what the Board of Health is charged with doing, but I wanted Wendy to state what you and I already know, in that the Board of Health is chosen, nominated by the mayor. I don't think the mayor nominated them dealing with parallel products in mind. They are approved by the council. There is this host city agreement. And whether or not one has anything to do with the other, I find it hard to, but look, if I were in that type of position as in power, and I've gone through all this host community agreement stuff, and I've gotten a deal done on paper, I find it very hard to think that me would be arguing against having this particular deal after I've done all the other legwork to kind of get it in here. And I've been telling folks, well, this is what I've done for the city, and we're going to make this kind of money, that kind of stuff. I just find it difficult to believe that I would, do a 180. I would like to think that in this particular case, I would have not even entertained a host city agreement, that I would have a Board of Health that would look at the project on its face value and say, what the, absolutely, like that. So it should be very interesting, starting at 6:30 on Tuesday. I keep on thinking Monday. It is Tuesday. And it's important that folks go. One of the reasons I want Wendy to call me on Tuesday evening, there I go again, Tuesday evening, is to find out who showed up. This is important. Or, and it's, I don't want to dog people. I don't want to call you out and say you don't care about your community. I know you do. But as I said earlier, freedom is not free. And if you want to be free from the South Coast renewables, you're going to have to pick your butt up and put it in one of those seats over at the Pulaski School. Even if you are on oxygen and have to be wheelchaired, get somebody to wheelchair you in there. I would say we could do the broadcast from there. Unfortunately, that's not possible in this particular case. But by having some folks that are over there, calling in from over there and letting us know what's going on, that lets me know and lets those in our listening audience, and believe me, we have listening audience down in Florida. I'm not expecting the folks from Florida to fly back, but they care about New Bedford. You hear them when we do New Bedford Day. If there are any counselors that are listening, I definitely would like to hear from you. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this because, quite frankly, you have a say and you have sway. You have, okay, so you can't really kick a Board of Health member off. I'm not asking you to do that, but every city councilor that I know, whether it's a ward councilor or an at-large councilor, they care deeply about the city of New Bedford. And if there is a bona fide reason that if you were to be able to vote this yay or nay, and you would vote yay to keep parallel products, tell me why. Tell us why. What are we missing with all of this? I really am curious. In fact, you don't have to be a counselor. You can be anybody. Give me your reasons why you think that South Coast Renewables should be able to fire up their retro rockets and get busy with disposables here in the city of New Bedford. 508-996-0500. Got the pamphlet here. Don't trash New Bedford. That is the front midfold stop-up facility bigger than the Crapo Hill landfill from coming into our community. The project has reached a critical point in the permitting process. The Board of Health will hold a public meeting to decide whether or not to approve site assignment for this facility. We must show them that we care and need them to protect our community. Please attend the Board of Health hearing, August 5. There's also one on August 6th and August 7th, Pulaski Elementary School, Brayley Road, New Bedford. It says 6 p.m. That's a good time to get there to get a good seat. I believe the meeting itself starts at 6:30. And here's the other thing, and this is huge. You show up on the 5th, that tells attorneys to get busy and plan some more meetings. The more meetings there are, the more reason the Board of Health has to think maybe this is not a good idea. All right, let's hear from you. Hello. Yes, you.
Hello?
Yep, it's you. It's you.
Me.
Cross your heart.
Okay. Unfortunately, I live in Mattapoisett, so I'm a couple of towns over. I grew up in Dartmouth for 24 years, so I've been abutting the city. Okay. The people in New Bedford have got to understand, to look at what happened to New Bedford Harbor over the years. It turned into a number one toxic waste dump.
Yes, it did. Yep, Superfund site.
Right. And the money that was spent to try to clean up this harbor. And they're willing to, well, I'm not going to say willing, not willing or willing, to allow this to happen now on land eventually, we don't know what's going to go into this dump site. And it's going to turn into another dump site. Is New Bedford going to allow this to happen? I mean, it's happened with their harbor over the years, and people were appalled about this. It's time to look at, is there any safeguards that this is not going to turn into another massive toxic dump site in the city?
You know, I never thought about it the way that you just brought it up, but you bring up a good point. I think Wendy Morrell was pretty much trying to allude to it, but she didn't just kind of jab me in the ribs with it. You did. The fact of the matter is, since you don't really know what's going in there, and Wendy was eloquent in explaining that, you don't know the potential harm. And I never thought about this as some type of Superfund site. I would hope that it would never get to that if it ever happens, but there's always that possibility. You're right.
You can't allow this to happen again. I mean, unfortunately, nobody understood what PCBs were doing back in the day. And knowing now what happens, you can't allow this to happen again without total safeguards that this could never happen again.
Is there such a thing as a total safeguard?
No, there isn't, unfortunately. And I understand that, but unfortunately, you're stuck. I mean, I'd turn around.
It's a great position.
What's going to happen is going to happen. I've gotten to the point where, okay, I grew up, now I'm 66 years old, so I grew up in the late 60s, 70s, and seeing how things have changed. And this last election, with the vote on question 1, where let the auditor in to examine the books, that became law. The people voted on this overwhelmingly. 72% of the state voted saying, yes, let the auditor in. And 8 months later, the auditor still has not gotten in because the legislators won't let them in to do this. And what they've done is they've telling the people, it doesn't matter what you say, what you vote on. It's a law, but it doesn't matter. We're not letting them in. And
so are you equating not letting the auditor do an audit on the legislature with
let the auditor in. What
I understand that's what you want, but are you equating that not happening to this whole thing dealing with South Coast Renewables?
I don't see that happening. I see South Coast Renewable getting in because the politicians are not going to oppose it. I hate to say it this way, but these politicians are benefiting from these companies one way or another, whether it's money or whatever, kickbacks, however you want to call it. They're showing their hands by allowing this to happen.
I got you, man. Thank you. Do appreciate the call. 508-996-0500 to talk about this one way or the other. Maybe you're for it. Maybe you're not. Why it is bad. This facility will pollute our water, air, and soil. It will produce excessive noise, smoke, and dust, create pest infestation, and create noxious odor. It will negatively impact our roadways and create significant amounts of traffic. This will all lead to a massive decline in the quality of life for the community. This is out of the pamphlet that South Coast Neighbors United has been passing around over at the feast and to anybody that will take it. And if I understand Wendy correctly, you don't have to be from New Bedford or the north part of New Bedford to go to this meeting. And as I think about it, where that facility is located, you've got Freetown right there on the border. You also have a border with Dartmouth. Yeah, border with Dartmouth. And Acushnet is, as the bird flies, less than a mile away. So there are a lot of communities right there that are very much impacted. I would be curious to know how board members from Acushnet and Fairhaven and Freetown feel about this. Board of Health members, Board of Select Board members. If I'm on the select board, I'm not on the select board, I am a town meeting member in Dartmouth, I'd be furious knowing that, all it takes is the wind to blow in a particular direction, and all of a sudden it's boom, right on top of Dartmouth. Same thing, boom, right on top of Freetown. In another direction, boom, boom, Acushnet. And depending on how strong that wind, it could be right down into Fairhaven. Never mind the fact that it's already impacting New Bedford. So, I don't know. I wish this was something that the yous and me's could go to the ballot box and make a decision on. As the previous caller stated, you might vote it out in the legislature or some other body just ushers it in, but at least you had your say. And you have another reason to turn around and fight back. Whew, I don't know. Yep. Got some other paperwork here that I wanted to get to. Pittman brought this up during his show today, and I've only had a brief chance to take a look at it. It deals with the whole thing dealing with Officer Taj, the New Bedford police officer who is not a U.S. citizen. Apparently, there is a list of quite a few people. When I say quite a few, I'm talking about more than 100 that have gone to the police academy, have graduated from the police academy, that are U.S. citizens, that were not chosen. I'm not even going to try to pretend to know why that really matters if they are or were a U.S. citizen. I would like to believe, I'm not a fly on the wall here, but I would like to believe when the push came to the shove, when the cream went up to the top, Officer Taj was that person. He was, as I like to term, the Jackie Robinson for the police force. Now, we know better because we've been told by the city of New Bedford that there is a Cape Verdean police officer on the staff, on the force, who is not a U.S. citizen. We've been told that Officer Taj and this Cape Verdean officer plan on going for their U.S. citizenship. That's what they want to do. Great. But this list of other officers, and apparently, and I didn't hear this. I did not hear it from the mayor. But apparently the mayor made a statement that if he had U.S. citizens to choose from, he would have chosen them over Officer Taj. Now, I don't recall hearing that. I've been told, such as to believe, that he did indeed say it. I don't know if the city is indeed hiding from this or not. But I think it's time for them, the mayor, the police chief, city councilors, to make a grand showing here, one way or the other. Do you think it's okay that you have non-U.S. citizens that are here legally to be a police officer or not? If you don't think so, you can take the route and change the policy. I don't think that the mayor, I don't think that the police chief, I can't speak for any member of the New Bedford City Council, but I'm willing to bet that you could not get a majority of them saying that every police officer needs to be a U.S. citizen. I could be wrong. I really could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. And I think that if there was ever a ballot question on whether or not a New Bedford police officer needs to be a U.S. citizen, I'm willing to bet that the voters of New Bedford would be okay with a police officer or police officers that were not U.S. citizens. Now, here's where it gets a little iffy. And that iffy is if you've got a choice between a U.S. citizen and a non-U.S. citizen, legal resident, should you choose the U.S. citizen over the legal resident? I would have to say the stars would have to be aligned with the right galaxy in order for the non-U.S. citizen to win out. But it begs a different question. You know, on applications, they ask you your gender and your race, ethnicity. Should our applications for government work also include if you are a U.S. citizen? Or maybe you have a selection of boxes, U.S. citizen or green card holders, meaning legal permanent resident. And then after that, you might have another box for other. I don't know if we're really coming down to that, but I do know this. And I've asked the question so many different times, and people are afraid to answer the question. Some people, they duck the issue by saying, well, I don't think I'm going to be alive then. And maybe they won't be alive then. But no matter the efforts of President Trump to try to get the worst of the worst or a reasonable facsimile thereof out of the country, in about a decade, the United States is going to be known as a majority minority country. Then what? Then what? So, are we going to need all of these boxes? English, non-English, or maybe other for specific language? How do you suggest that we go about doing this? Yeah, I think we'll do the gender thing, but anybody can check anything. Doesn't matter what President Trump says, because, you know, in 3 years or so, he's out of office. And then you've got are you a citizen? Are you not a citizen? Are you an other? 508-996-0500. Are you another?
Sometimes. I'll defer on that. How you doing, Brian?
Excellent, thanks.
Brian, I think that the Officer Taj thing, there's a lot of information that probably hasn't come out, and I think that was proven by the way it was the question from WBSM was answered by the city. It was like humana. 3 or 4 different people were asked. Nobody had an answer for hours and hours. And then all of a sudden they got their act together. They got their story straight and they released the story. Do you kind of see it like that?
Yes, partially. I think that when you're looking to see how many employees, whether the police department or city employees, are U.S. residents or not, I think you're shuffling through a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. But like, for instance, I work for a phone company, and because we handle some government accounts, we have to have a background check every 5 years. My most recent one was 3 weeks ago. I sat on the phone with an investigator. They asked me questions for 4 hours, Brian, on detailed stuff about my background. I've never been in trouble with the police. I've never, I was born in America, the whole deal. But they had very specific, detailed questions. And this is just to say, yeah, you can look at phone bills that belong to the government. So I find it highly unusual that they wouldn't do a true in-depth investigation of the police officers. Somebody knew.
Yeah.
There's no way nobody knew.
Oh, I don't know that. I think they may not have known about the frequently asked questions, but they knew who they were hiring.
Right. They absolutely knew his background. And I think a decision was consciously made to hire the guy because they needed him. They needed him we're short cops, so we needed a cop. And guess what? He had a special skill. He was able to speak Quiche, so they hired him. And I think they probably knew that it was going against a long-time policy, but they went for it anyway. And then I think the mayor came on the radio, and when he answered questions from Chris, he was very defensive, which means he's, whenever he gets defensive, he's been caught. I hate to say that, I think he's trying to do the right thing by giving us cops, but he knew it was going to be a contentious question when he had to answer why we were hiring non-Americans. So
yeah, but I think they had it written. They already had it set up. There is no policy in writing, and so they could say it's been a long-standing policy. And they also had another police officer who was on staff that is also not a legal a U.S. citizen.
Right, but I think that had to change somewhere because there was a guy who called. He's called the station a few times. He's spoken to Barry, and I heard him this morning talk to Ken. And he said, this was in the 90s, I think he said, he applied to be a New Bedford police officer. He was absolutely legal, but he wasn't yet an American citizen. He went through the hiring process. They called him up right before the academy and said, we can't hire you. You're not an American citizen. So, I don't doubt what he says. Who knows?
I hear you, and that was also the 1990s. I mean, yeah, but so when the city says they have a long-standing policy, is 5 years long-standing? Is 10 years long-standing? What is long-standing, especially when it's not in writing?
Right, and that's how do you answer that? I don't know.
No, I don't
have a good answer for that. So all right,
man.
Good topic.
I do appreciate it. Yeah, you too. Next hour, Twyla Braze. She is the co-founder of Citizens Council for Health Freedom. You may have heard her on with me during the week. I don't know if it was Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, but she was on with me. This time, we're going to talk about something that's in your wallet. It's called a driver's license. It's called a real ID. We'll talk more about that in just a bit.
To change something, you must build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
It's rather a suspicious coincidence that the records which showed these matters were destroyed 6 days after the break-in at the Watergate.
Lowe's knows that more projects mean more tools. For a limited time, new and existing MyLowe's Rewards credit card members can get 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more, in-store and online. Don't wait to get the things you need. Get special financing today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Now through August 27th, choose 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payments required. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by shipping cheap parts around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. Skip the tariff and snag yourself American-made clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.